वागर्थाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्थप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ वन्दे शम्भो उमापतिं सुरगुरुं वन्दे जगत्कारणं वन्दे पन्नगभूषणं मृगधरं वन्दे पशूनां पतिम् वन्दे सूर्यशशाङ्कवह्निनयनं वन्दे मुकुन्दप्रियम् वन्दे भक्तजनाश्रयं च वरदम् वन्दे शिवं शङ्करम् वन्दे शिवं शङ्करम्। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome everyone to today's session of Sivanandalahari Shiva-Tattvanusandhanam. In the last session, we were going through verses where Shankaracharya was talking about how Maya deludes us and pushes us in a way of misrepresenting or miscomprehending so many other things as God. Deva Bhrantya, he uses the word Deva Bhrantya, that the way we mistake a far-lying oyster shell that has fallen over into thinking that it is silver. So in the same way, we Jadamatihi, people who are foolish, they don't understand what Shiva is. They ignore Shiva and then they go somewhere else thinking that that is God, this is God. It was a very interesting question that came up at that point in time. We dwelt into that more deeply, and we will see a lot of instances where we are going to continue to encounter these aspects of what true devotion is, what is true bhakti, and how does one contemplate about this idea, this aspect of Shiva Tattva, right? And typically, just before we get into today's, just to preface a few things, we have the contemplation or the worship of the divine entity is typically followed under two paths. One is Sakara, the other one is Nirakara. Sakara, Saguna Brahma or Ishvara that we call, we attribute a form to it. Because anything that you want to conceptualize or contemplate or think from the perspective of Nirakara is extremely hard. It is not easy for anybody and everybody to do it. The more exclusionary something becomes, enabling vast adaptation becomes a challenge. If anything has to become adapted, It should not be exclusionary. It has to be inclusive. And by the very nature of inclusivity, we are talking about all different people at various stages of their own individual developments. And spirituality has to cater to all of them. And therefore, from the perspective of Sakara, and even within Sakara, there are two aspects, right? Sakara can be where you are attributing a certain symbolism, like we were talking about the linga, right? The Shiva linga. What does that mean? And the dhatu, the etymology of the word linga, ling shleshane, right? What does that mean? It means it is representative, it is indicative of Parabrahma Tattva. And that is why you see, and I was briefly referring to how even historically, if you see, the very aspect of how a Shivalinga has to be has evolved over a long period of time. In ancient times, in all the ancient Shiva temples, if you see, there is no set structure except that there would have been five aspects, five angles to the stone. If you, for instance, if you consider Kedara, the Kedara Shivalinga is one of the best examples where you will see there are actually five angles, like it's kind of like a polygonal shape because Shiva has five faces, right? Aghora, Vamadeva, Tatpurusha, Ishana, Sadashiva, right? So there are all of these faces for Shiva. Five faces, Panchanana, he is called. So there had to be all of these angles. Over a period of time, the representation of Parabrahma Tattva as being something that is all encompassing, it evolved. And you see more like, later versions of the Shivalinga that we see, which is like very perfectly cylindrical and all of that. Point being that there is a symbolic representation. And then we also see a form, an anthropomorphic form that is attributed to God, where there are like, anthropomorphic, but yet a little bit suprahuman in terms of like, we have hands, but God has hands, but more number of hands. We have two eyes, he's got three eyes. And anything and everything that is associated with that form, there are deeper meanings associated with it. But by contemplating on the form, you start at something superficial, but when there is true intent, that superficiality is not going to remain at a topical level. It's going to start going deeper and deeper. We ask, we ponder, we think about like, what do these three eyes mean? What does the jata represent? What does it mean to say that Shiva is Gangadhara? What does it mean to say that Shiva is Nilakantha? Right? And we touched about all of these throughout the past few hours that we have spent contemplating. We have covered all of this. So with that background, understanding that, why there is a need for Sakara, symbolism, anthropomorphic forms, and Nirakara, where we really go into the most subtle aspect and contemplate God truly within us and understand that He is Satchidananda. What does that mean? It cannot be expressed in words. It can only be experienced. Now, Shankaracharya, he goes into those dimensions. Having in the previous verse, in verse number 8, Shankaracharya, having spoken about how we get deluded, he takes it a step further and now he says, how do we even get deluded in the type of worship that we want to do? And we'll look at this verse now, we'll start our session with this verse. गभीरे कासारे विशति विजने घोर विपिने विशाले शैले च भ्रमति कुसुमार्थं जडमतिः समप्यैकं चेतः सरसिजमुमानाथ भवते सुखेनावस्थातुं जन इह न जानाति किमहो सुखेनावस्थातुं जन इह न जानाति किमहो. Sorry, was there a question? Did anyone have a question about what we discussed just in the last few minutes? Okay, nothing. I thought I heard someone. So we'll look into this meaning. Look at what the broad meaning of this is. It says, a foolish man goes about wandering in search of flowers. Where does he go wandering? He goes into deep lakes, full of lotus flowers. And then he goes to dense forests, uninhabited dense forests, and climbs high mountains. All because he wants to fetch flowers. He says, Kimaho, aho. It's like, oh my God, alas, oh my God, he does not know how to live a fulfilling life by simply offering the lotus of his heart to you. You, who is the Lord of Umanatha. Hey, Umanatha, Janaha Jadamatissan Gabhire Kasare Vishati Vijane Ghora Vipine Vishale Shaile Kusumartham Brahmati Ekam Cheta Sarasijam Bhavate Samarpya Sukhenaiva Ihasthatum Najanati. Aho, Kimidam, Kim is Kimidam. What is this? Right? So he starts. He addresses him as, Hey, Umanatha, the Lord of Uma. What did Parvati do? That's how she got Shiva, no? And so aptly he addresses him with that Visheshana. He says, Umanatha, you are the Lord of Uma. Who was this Uma? When Parvati, after Kama is burnt down, she realizes that it is not about externalities. I can't win over Shiva through my external beauty. I have to prove to Shiva that it's not about just external. Inside also, in my most inner self, my love is only towards him. And how can one prove that? One proves that by constantly contemplating on Shiva and becoming one with him. And so she decides, I'm going to go to penance. When she mentions this desire, this sankalpa that she would have taken, that, this is the way I'm going to become Shiva's wife, but not with my external beauty, not with all of these riches and all of that. No, no, no. I'm going to prove to him that in my deepest depths of my heart, I'm dedicated to him. I'm going to go do penance. And Mena Devi, very motherly affection, obviously, she says, Oh, Ma. Ma is don't do, don't go. Oh is like daughter. Hey, daughter. U is also used in the perspective of penance, like Utkarshanam Karoti, right? U is like to elevate, meditation. So there are multiple ways in which the U, the syllable itself, can be understood. But whether you consider that as, hey, daughter, oh, don't go, ma, don't go, don't do it. This is like extremely hard. Why do you want to take up all of these hardships? We'll figure out some other way that is more convenient. right? Where you don't have to leave the house, you don't have to perform austerities, you don't have to like go into deep forests and all that, isolate yourself. None of that. There should be some other convenient way. Uma. And that becomes her name, Uma. The first representation that we will see this, I think it comes up in, I might be mixing it up, but in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, there's a beautiful instance where um, the Devatas would have won a great war against the Danavas, and they would be returning back. And because they won a major victory, they would be full of pride that, oh, we won this, we won this, we were the one who, defeated all the Danavas. And then you will see the mention of Uma Haimavati. She appears in front of them. She over there is representative of Parameshwara, Parabrahma Tattva. And then she says, you seem to be extremely joyous, jovial, almost kind of like a rowdy exuberance that you are showing off. What happened? And the Devas will be like, oh, we defeated the entire Danavas. And then Uma Haimavati, the daughter of Himavan, she says, oh, is that so? You defeated it, is it? How wonderful. You must be very, very powerful. And if that is the case, would you mind, you know, blowing this grass off? Like I have a grass here. Can you, like, do something to this? Can you blow this off? And then Vayu is like, what? I blew like these humongous Danavas away in one whiff of my wind, and you offer me this one grass and ask me to blow away? Of course I can. Then Vayu tries to blow it away. It doesn't like even move even a minuscule portion does not even waver. It stands still. Vayu is humiliated. Then Agni comes. I'm going to like burn this down to ash. You won't even see anything. And then he blows his fire. Nothing happens. Indra comes, he tries, nothing happens. And then they pray to her. It's like, what is this? What is this that you have confounded us with this? And then Uma says, who do you think is the one force that is operating within all of you? You think it is you who does all of these things. It's not you. This Parameshwara, the Parabrahma, that supreme force is the one which is making you all move. The sun rises because of him. Agni can burn because of him. Vayu can blow because of him. That is where you will see the instance of Uma Haimavati, Parvati, which then kind of like very beautifully it is the characterization you see come up in Kumara Sambhava of Kalidasa. We'll cover all of that. There are going to be more instances for us to see. So he says, hey, Umanatha, Janaha Jadamatis son. Jadamatis son. Jadamatihi, like with Jadamati, they are like endowed with a deluded mind. Jadamati's son, being foolish, what do these people do? They go into Gabhire. Gabhire is very vast, and that vastness can be both at a topical level and also deep within. So it can be very deep lakes and also very vast lakes. Gabhire, ka sare, ka in Sanskrit represents water. That's why you hear terms like, Kanja Lochani. Kanja is something that is born in water. Ka is water. Ja is to be born. So Kanja, something that is born in water, which is that it is lotus. So lotus-eyed, Kanjalochane, is a very typical adjective that is used for females, right? Someone who has lotus petal-like eyes. Right? So Kasare is lake. Vast collection of water, deep collection of water, however you want to take that. Gabhire, Kasare, vast, deep lakes. Kinkaroti, Vishati, he enters. He goes into deep lakes. Okay. And what else does he do? Vijane, Ghora Vipine, Vijanaha. Vijana is something that is not inhabited. Dense foliage, forest that is not suitable for human habitation at all. Into such Ghora Aranyas, into such wild forest, uninhabited, scary, dense forests, he goes. Where else? Vipinaha is forest. Vijane, Ghora Vipine, Vipana, forest. Vishale Shaile Cha, Vishale Shaile, very huge mountains. He climbs, he goes trekking those days. All of that. Kimartham etat karoti. Why is he doing all of this? Kusumartham. Just to fetch all type of exotic flowers, hard to attain flowers. We are going to go do all of these things. In the latest the current situation, if we have to talk about, we will go like several kilometers, go into densely crowded market areas and like haggle and fight with 10 people to get like all the flowers that we can, all varieties of flowers that we can. We'll fight with the flower vendor, we will push people, we'll do this, we'll do that, because I have to get the best of the best flowers, because when I'm going to decorate, and I'm going to take pictures, I'm going to post it on Instagram, or whoever is going to come home, they're going to come and they'll be like, oh my goodness, what a wonderful decoration that has happened. Okay, we are doing all of this. Great. But did we do one thing that really, really matters, which makes all the difference in this world? What is that? Shankaracharya says, Ekam chetas sarasijam. Sarasija. Sarasi is again lake. Ja, something that is born. Ekam chetas sarasijam. That one flower of the heart. Chetaha. Chetas. Chetas has again multiple meanings. It includes consciousness. It includes mind. It includes heart. All of these are definitions for chetas. In this context, heart makes, it's like giving of yourself. There is one flower that matters the topmost amidst all of these things. It is your heart. Chetas sarasijam bhavate samarpya. Samarpyaikam chetas sarasijam, right? So, ekam chetas sarasijam bhavate samarpya, giving it to you. What happens when you just give? If of yourself, once you have given that, what happens? Sukhena eva sthatum. Sukhena eva. It is not temporary. It is not elementary. It is not something that is, just for that momentary point of time. Sukhena eva sthatum sthitaha. Perennially, he is going to become established in bliss. If only this person would have understood that what matters is giving your heart, the one lotus that really cannot ever dry off, wither, fall. None of that can happen if you were to give the heart of your lotus. Chetas sarasijam bhavate samarpya sukhenaiva sthatum. Kutra sthatum ihaiva. Right here, right now, he will be able to attain bliss and remain installed, remain kind of like firmly placed in that blissful state right here, right now. Na janati, he does not even know. Aho, Kimidam, he knows how to go into deep lakes, he knows how to trek huge mountains, he knows how to get into like uninhabited, wild, dense forests. So it is not that this person is afraid of difficulties. He is taking up all of these physical exertions. Could he not exert himself to go deep within his own self and realize that all that I have to do is give myself to Shiva and every bliss is attained? How how strange is this? Almost pitifying, right? Almost pityingly stupid. Kimaho, kimidam? How how strange is this? The Antahkarana in Indian philosophy has four dimensions, and I had spoken about that, I think, in one of the initial sessions. We have Manaha, Chitta, Buddhi, and Ahankara. And in the Nirvana he says so beautifully, Mano, Chitta, Ahankari, Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chittani Naham, Shivoham, 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 Shivoham. I am, my true essence is that I am one with Shiva. I am Shiva, I am Shiva, Shivoham, 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 Shivoham. The manas that we talk about in Indian philosophy is something that is full of sankalpas and vikalpas. Sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha. What is sankalpa? Sankalpa is when we are desirous of something. We want something. There are wants, right? And driven by those wants, we make up our mind. Like if I want to have coffee, now my mind has to think, like the mind is going to desire. So there is that desire. I'm going to make a sankalpa that I'm going to make coffee, so I'm going to go do all the work that is essential for that. Vikalpa is confusion, is something that is kind of like, very hazy. I haven't made up my mind. That's why we say, like, I haven't made up my mind. I'm not sure. I'm confused. Should I do this? Should I do that? Mind is always like that. Mind has an attribute, or manaha in this case, the how we qualify manas. Manas has this attribute of like, wanting or being confused whether I want it or not. We look at somebody doing something. If that's an action that 3-4 people do, immediately we also feel like, oh, maybe I should also do that. Why? Because they are doing it. Do I understand why they are doing it? Am I inquisitive to know why they are doing it? No, they are doing it, so I'm also going to do. Maybe there is something over there. The manas is always kind of like, dwelling in these kind of dualities. I like something. Should I like this? Do I really like it? Do I want to get it? But buddhi nishchayatmika, right? So your buddhi is going to like determine that yes, this is so or this is not so. That deterministic attribute is that of buddhi. What does ahankara do? Ahankara, not from the perspective of how we say that, he has like a lot of attitude. Like he's got a lot of ahankara, he's got a lot of jamba, right? Like that ego the kind of like ego we talk about, where it is all about like, me, 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 right? Give importance only to me. That's not the typical ahankara. That is not, while it is something that has gone rogue here in the context of Antakarana Chatushtaya, when it is talking about ahankara, it is that identification with I or mine. This body is me. I am this body. This property belongs to me. So this sense of I and mine, that is what is called ahankara in this context. Chitta is one that always thinks about the means for happiness, or you know the ways to attain whatever is going to be conducive for me. And it is important to understand why we are talking about chitta from this perspective. Chitta, like as I said, keeps thinking about the ways and means of attainment of what is good. Consider that as an attribute that's kind of like you're planning. Like, I want to plan, I want to attain something, I'm going to plan, I'm going to come up with a whole structure to it. Why? Because I want to attain something that is desirable. What is most desirable? The thing that is most desirable is to be free of the three aspects of pasha, the bhaya, shoka, and moha. Because once we get rid of fear, sorrow, suffering, and we get rid of delusion, we can really experience that bliss. Everything that we do is in pursuit of that happiness, of that bliss only. So this chitta, which has to always contemplate on how do I attain everything that is good for me, if that chitta is given off, the lotus of this heart, which always keeps thinking about what is good for me and how do I attain it, if that can be given to Shiva, why? Because he is the one who is going to take care of everything of mine. If I attain Shiva, then I have attained everything. So if I can offer my lotus heart, if this chitta can always think of Shiva, give itself to Shiva, become one with Shiva, then I have attained everything that I want. But instead, we are always looking at externalities, externalities, externalities. Because it's easy, relatively easy. It's still hard to go get all of these things. But even more harder, and yet multitudinous times more meaningful, is giving what truly matters, which is ourselves. So when we do this, does it matter who we are? Now he goes into the next few verses. Shankaracharya starts deconstructing how nothing matters, because the Chetas Sarasijaha, once it is given, nothing else matters, and he establishes that in the next few verses. We'll look at those now. Naratvam Devatvam Nagavana Mrugatvam Ashakata Pashutvam Kitatvam Bhavatu Vihagatwadi Jananam Naratvam Devatvam Nagavana Mrugatvam Ashakata Pashutvam Kitatvam Bhavatu Vihagatwadi Jananam Sada Tvatpadabja Smarana Paramanandalahari. विहारासक्तं चेत् हृदयमिह किं तेन वपुषा सदा त्वत्पादाब्जस्मरणपरमानन्दलहरी विहारासक्तं चेद् हृदयमिह किं तेन वपुषा. Shankaracharya says it doesn't matter if I were to be born as a man, a divine entity, as a beast that roams around in mountains or that dwells in forests, even if I'm a mosquito, maybe an animal, a worm, a bird, or any other creature, I don't care. Why does he not care? He doesn't care so long as in each of these births, if my heart is always inclined to wander in the waves of the supreme bliss one can experience by constantly remembering your lotus feet. Again, all about offering ourselves. Naratvam, Devatvam, Nagavana Mrigatvam, Mashakata, Pashutvam, Kitatvam, Vihagatwadi Jananam Bhavatu. Tadapi Hridayam Sada Tvat Padabja Smarana Paramananda Lahari Viharasaktam Chet Tena Vapusha Kim Bhavati. Kim? Tena Vapusha Kim? Vapuhu is form, body. All of these bodies that we talked about, what are all of those bodies? Naratvam, whether I am born as a human being. In this birth, we are in this human form. Let's say we did certain good deeds. The belief system is that if you have done something good, then you are going to enjoy Swarga, the Divoloka, right? The Loka of the Devas. So if you are going to enjoy the Swarga, you need to have a Deva form. So maybe I'll have a human form, or maybe because of the past deeds, somehow now I'm like, enjoying the pleasures of the heaven. And in order to do that, I have Devatvam. I have a divine form. Or maybe I did something that was not appropriate. And therefore, to square off the balance, again, pay your dues. I was born as a mriga that, where does this mriga dwell? Naga. Naga is mountain, hills and mountains. Nagaraja, right? Himalaya. Vana, forests. So maybe this is a mountain dwelling animal, or maybe a forest dwelling animal. None of these. The most despicable of the creatures that one can think of, mosquito. Maybe if I'm even born as a mosquito, as a housefly, right? Pashutvam. And we looked at what that word Pashu itself, like what does that mean? Maybe I'm a pet. Maybe I'm a cow. Maybe I'm a pig. Doesn't matter. Pashutvam. Kitatvam. A worm, like an insect. Bhavatu. Athava. Vihaga. Vihaga is a bird. Maybe I'm born as a bird. Adi, or no matter. No, there are so many forms of life in this earth. I don't care. It doesn't matter whichever form I'm going to be in. I don't care. Why? Because Hridayam sada Twat padabja smarana Paramananda Lahari. The waves of Paramananda, the waves of supreme bliss, if I can experience, how can you experience those waves of supreme bliss? By surrendering my heart. If my heart is always going to dwell in the bliss of the waves of bliss that are emerging again and again, then how does it matter what body, what form I have? We give so much of attributes to these, so much of importance to these externalities again and again. Now, there it was an externality of the action, and he used the metaphor of going and fetching flour as an externality of the act. Now that action has gotten a little bit more personal, it is even more closer. Why now he cares about the form? The layering. I hope you're able to appreciate how now from action he comes to the form. And he says that also does not matter. The externalities of the actions does not matter. Your form does not matter. What matters is that you have surrendered your heart in utmost devotion, constantly thinking about the lotus feet. Tvat padabja, the lotus feet of you, if by constantly thinking about those lotus feet, as I'm experiencing these waves of bliss, as long as my heart is so deeply imbued, involved, enjoying in this feeling, I don't care what form it is that I have. Very occasionally, when we are in deep contemplative state, when you're meditating, when you're doing puja, Shiva puja, we lose that sense of body. And we experience, like when we spoke about avasthatraya in Sushupti, are we conscious about our body? We are not. What experiences the body has just vanishes. And there are occasions when you feel that, and it is it's kind of like very electrifying to even, like, again come back and you realize how long it has been. You would have completely been oblivious to all of those experiences of the body. A beautiful story that comes to mind again from the Puranic instances. You're all very well familiar with the divine Kshetra of Srikalahasti, where Parameshwara exists in the form of Vayulinga, right? Of the five primordial elements, Srikalahasti is Vayulinga. Why is it called Srikalahasti? Shri, Kala, Hasti. Three animals worshipped Shiva over there. Shri is another name for spider. You always associate Shri with Lakshmi, like, or offering uh, uh, respect to somebody, right? Shri, another name for Shri is spider. Kala is snake, a cobra, so to say, but we'll consider that as a snake. And Hasti is elephant. Srikalahasti, three animals, a spider, a snake, and an elephant worshipped Shiva over there in their own way. What does the spider do? A spider weaves web, spider web, right? So the spider was so devoted to Shiva that in order to ensure that all the dust and particles and everything that that were to fall on it, like may it not fall, it weaved such a dense web to prevent all the dry leaves and worn out flowers and everything falling on the Shivalinga. And the Sarpa, there is a typical, it's a myth, right? The Kavi Samaya, where they say that the Sarpa has money. It used to come and it used to worship it with the Nagamani. And the elephant would come, it would serve the Lord in its own way. It used to come carry water in its trunk, and then it would clean everything up. Now all the three started getting into a confrontation mode, because the spider every day would weave this intricate, elaborate web. The snake would come and it would place all the monies and everything around it. The elephant would come, it would see, what is this spider web and all of that? It looks so ugly. I'm going to bathe the Lord. I'm going to clean everything up. And then it would wave its trunk, squirt water everywhere, and then clean everything up, throw this off, throw that off. So, but all these creatures, animals, were worshipping. The whole motive was utmost devotion to Shiva. That is all that mattered. How long is this going to continue? Got super angry one day, and the spider decided that, okay, I'm going to do something to this one. So the elephant also decided, I'm going to take care of this. The snake also decided, I'm going to take care of this. The elephant came, snatched down the spider web, trampled the spider. The snake entered into the trunk of the elephant to choke it, and the elephant kind of started bashing its head, and the snake died, elephant died, spider also died, and immediately Shiva, it is said in Sri Kalahasti, he descended and he took all the three and gave them moksha. It is the moksha sthala, and it became the name eternally immortalized as Sri Kalahasti. I shall be known here onwards as Sri Kalahastishwara, and that is what Dhurjati in his epic verse Kalahastishwara Shatakam, he has composed on this, right? So all of this, and even think about Gajendra. What was Gajendra? He was an elephant. When the crocodile came and caught him, Gajendra did not, call out to other animals. He immediately called out to Narayana. And what did Narayana do? He was so intent on getting over there. He did not even care that Mahalakshmi's sari was caught in his jewelry. He is running, Mahalakshmi is running behind him. He is not even waiting for Garuda, because Garuda is taking a while to come. He is calling me, Gajendra is calling me, and Vishnu runs to him. In all of these instances, in all of these stories, the symbolism is ultimately about surrendering with the utmost purity. And when that happens, you take one step towards Him, the Lord is going to take 10 towards you. What matters is what is within, not what is without. The externalities, they are always rudimentary, they don't matter unless we offer what is deep within us. So now we saw about the action, we saw about the form. Where should we go next? He comes into the ashrama vyavastha. We have Like there are varnas and ashramas, right? There are 4 varnas and there are 4 ashramas. He'll come to that also. In this 11th verse, Shankaracharya says, Vaturva Gehiva Yatirapi Jativa Taditaro Naro va Yah Kaschit Bhavatu Bhavam Kim Tena Bhavati Yadiyam Hritpadmam Yadi Bhavadadhinam Pashupate तदीयस्त्वं शंभो भवसि भवभारं च वहसि वटुर्वा गेही वा यतिरपि झटी च तदितरो नरो वा यः कश्चित् भवतु भव किं तेन भवति यदीयं हृत्पद्मं यदि भवदधीनं पशुपते तदीयस्त्वं शंभो भवसि भवभारं च वहसि. Hey Bhava, O Lord, how does it matter if a person is a brahmachari, a grihastha, a sannyasi, or a vanaprastha? None of these matter. None of these 4 ashrama vyavasthas, they matter. Or may it be any other stage in which this person might be. Even outside of these 4 ashramas, whoever that might be, whatever condition they might be. Hey Pashupati, you are the one who bestows everything that is good. Shambhu, Shiva, Pashupati, he whose lotus heart has become yours, what do? You become his. If that person has given of himself to you, you give yourself also to him and you take care of everything of this person. Bhavabharancha vahasi. You become the bearer of all his burdens. You take care of him. Hey Bhava, hey Pashupate, yah kaschit naraha vaturva gehi va yatirapi jati va taditaro va bhavatu तेन किं भवति यदीयं हृत्पद्मं भवदधीयं भवति यदीयं हृत्पद्मं भवदधीनं भवति त्वं तदीयः भवसि त्वं you तदीयः his भवसि you become अतः तस्य भवभारं वहसि you are also not only becoming his, you also start bearing all of his worldly burdens. Hey Bhava, hey Pashupate, Vatu who? Someone who is a brahmachari. Brahmachari, not in the mere sense of being unmarried. Brahmane charati. The brahmachari, or as a student, Vatu, he's supposed to be someone who is going to walk the path of realization of Brahma. The grounding from the Vatu stage, that brahmacharya, that stage early in your life is meant for you to get the right foundation What is that right foundation? The right foundation to understand what my true form is. What is the true essence of this body, and be able to walk in that path. Brahmane charati. He is going to walk in the contemplation, in understanding what is right, what is the true realization. So maybe I am a Vatu, a Brahmachari. Does it matter? What if I am a Grihastha? Having finished Brahmacharya ashrama, I learned, I went into Gurukula, I went to a teacher, I went to a school, went to university, got a degree, all of that. Now I have become a householder, I have a family, I have kids, everyone that I need to take care of. Does it matter? Yatihi, sannyasi. I'm leaving all of this aside. I don't care about this worldly affairs. I'm going to become a sannyasi. I am not going to do any karma out of desire. Nishkama, right? So I shall give up doing any activity out of a pure desire. I have shunned my desires, and therefore now I have entered into sannyas ashrama. Or jati. Jati, someone who is like, gotten all the jata and everything, is one meaning. The other meaning is someone who has gone into the forest. And because once you are in forest, you don't know upkeep, no maintenance, nothing to like, do your makeup and everything. No barber, sharper, none of those stuffs. Very unkempt hair, basically. Someone who is a vanaprasthi has gone into the forest to contemplate. Having finished the grihastha dharma also, now he has handed everything over and has now retreated into the aranya, into the jungle, into the forest, and has become a vanaprastha. Does it matter? Maybe I don't belong to any of these four ashramas. Does it matter? Says no, none of this has any bearing. We might think that, what matters is you should always remain a brahmachari. No, you can remain a brahmachari, but still in your mind, you can be like thinking of everything. It's pointless. You can be a grihastha, and yet, if you are not completely involved in Shiva, doesn't matter. Sannyasi, oh my goodness, the most easiest ones to fall. Just in Akkamaha Devi, in a wonderful vachana, she says, Yatike parakyagi kadittu maye. Maya does not leave even a yati, a sannyasi also. How does Maya capture a sannyasi or a yati? Maya captures sannyasi or a yati with their parak. Shri, 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 all the number of Shris that are, preceding the name. Maya captures them. Oh, I am a sannyasi. That ego, when it comes to the forefront, already you have fallen down. None of this matters. Then what matters? Tena kim bhavati? What does any of these ashramas, all of these varnas, how does it matter? Yadiyam hritpadbam bhavadadhinam bhavati. If this heart lotus, if the innermost self, the lotus of the innermost self, if that has become yours, bhavadadhinam, if it has become subjugated, if it has become submissive to you, if it has become submerged in you, if it has come under you, bhavadadhinam bhavati, Tvam tadiyam bhavasi. You give yourself to this person. Shiva itself becomes of the devotees. He becomes a property of the devotees. And having become that, that devotees bhava bharam vahasi. You're going to take care of the entire load, the worldly load, whatever this person has to go through, you take care of it. So many instances we see where the divine comes down to serve the devotees. In Periya Puranam, amongst the 63 Nayanmars, we see the beautiful story of Tirunalai Povar. To be talking about Tirunalai Povar and not even be able to get moved is impossible. Tirunalai Povar, he is more famously called Nandanar. You might have known him as Nandanar, but in Periya Puranam, he is addressed as Tirunalai Povar. Why is he called Tirunalai Povar? He is a Dalit. He belongs to the untouchable community. He would have come from a family that makes these takes the animal skin and makes the covering for the drums and everything, right? So I don't know what the English equivalent of that is, but essentially he belonged to the untouchable community. And this person would have ultimate desire to see Shiva. And in that time period, you can imagine how absolutely impermissible these things were. That was a period where if this person were to enter into the street, he had to pound the stick and say Sambholi, Sambholi, say announcing that I'm coming, so that everyone is going to clear the road, because even if his shadow were to fall, people would go and take bath. And this person has the desire to go see Shiva. Where? He wants to go see Shiva in Kanaka Sabha in Chidambaram. All the people, they keep teasing him. You look, who are you? You are such a worthless fellow. When will you ever get to see Shiva, and that too in Kanaka Sabha in Chidambaram? But his devotion was so pure, he would always say, Nalai Povar, I'll go tomorrow. That's why his nickname became Tirunalai Povar. He will go tomorrow. And he would be crossing a street. There is a beautiful temple that still exists. The story, they say, the Garbhagriha will be open, and while going, he looks and he sees Shiva. From far, he's outside. He can't enter the temple at all, right? So uh, he looks at the Lord and he sees Nandi standing in between, right? The Nandi is always kept in front of Shiva. And he requests, please move aside. And Shiva directs Nandi, Nandana wants to see me. Don't be in between. And Nandi is said to have moved. In this temple, you will see Nandi is not right in front of Shiva. Nandi has been moved away. In order to enable Nandana to see him, Shiva does this. It's a Very moving story of Tirunalai Povar. And he later on, lot of difficulties that Nandanar goes through. He is mocked, he is ridiculed, and then finally, he would have been a bonded laborer. On top of being an untouchable, he's also a bonded laborer. And this person has dreams of visiting Chidambar to see Shiva. Finally, Shiva does so much for him. In order to enable this guy come to Chidambaram, he comes to Chidambaram. There's a beautiful composition where he's standing outside the temple and he says, Varahalamo Ayya, can I come in? I want to come in, but I can't. Shiva, that night, he goes in the dream of the priests and he says, my Nandanar has come to Chidambaram. Sorry. My Nandanar has come to Chidambaram. And you guys are not going to allow him to come in. This is my command. This is my command. You need to bring Nandanar inside the temple. And the very next day, all the priests, they go to the outskirts and they carry Nandanar in a palanquin, in a palaki, right? In a palanquin. And they bring Nandanar. They say, for you, Shiva came in all of our dreams to argue, make a case for you. Because the love. If there is that utmost purity, he will move anything and everything just for his devotees. Tirunalai Povar story. I think we'll stop at this point. In the next verse, we are going to look at where he again, calls out even more beautifully. In the next verse, he tells Shiva why it is his responsibility. He says, Bhava Bharancha Vahasi, you take care of all his worldly burdens, right? Next, in the next verse, Shankaracharya says, you also have a duty to fulfill. That is why you need to take care of me. Very beautiful verse, but we'll take that up in the next class, and we'll stop with this 11th verse. Any questions, please let me know. Thank you. Shivamastu Nityam.
Praveen.
Hello?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, Shankar.
The last part that you described, how he, the untouchable, wanted to enter Shiva, but he could not. In the first place, why did God create this untouchable in the first place?
Yeah. No, God did not. In Bhagavad Gita, he says, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. Krishna says that Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. The Varna system, if we see, it had a purpose only from the point of view of what the actions of that person had to be. In the sense that anyone who is always going to be contemplating on a higher righteousness, who is always going to be contemplating about something that is going to do good for everybody, those people were classified as Brahmanas. Then you had another set of people who had a nature to protect things, who were very forthcoming in order to defend. Anyone who is having that nature was called a Kshatriya, because his part in the society is to protect. And then you needed certain set of people who are going to keep in the civil, in the social structure, you needed people who are going to be transacting, to run the commerce, to, whether it is a bartering system, whether it is like a commercial system, whatever has been established. So they were Vaishyas. And in order to serve everyone in general, there had to be a class of people who were well versed in providing services. And that service could be providing food, it could be providing utilities, tools, upkeep, maintenance, all of this. And they were called Shudras. That is true. However, there was nothing at any point in time that prevented them from doing any of these aspects. In fact, even in yajnas, in Vedas, you will see that there is a role where a Shudra had to come and perform certain things. In many instances, you will see where there are live examples, like for instance, consider what happened with Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra was a Kshatriya, but he became a Mahabrahmana. He became the Brahmana who got the vision of Gayatri Mantra, and he preached Gayatri. The very first Upadesha of Gayatri Mantra, in order to prove its efficacy, was given to Shudras. You know?
Yeah, and the other thing is that any sages, including Shankaracharya himself, have not seen any of these as differences between humans. He kind of considered everything as the same. Remember that
When he's
Kati
in Kashi,
Kapani, right?
he's in Kashi,
Yeah,
Shankaracharya, when he is in Kashi, he would be traveling towards the Ganga Ghat, and there is a Chandala who comes, and they say in the Shankara Vijaya and all that Chandala is representative of Shiva. And Shankaracharya, again, he comes Sambholi, right? So Shankaracharya says, Apasara, Apasara, like move away, move away. And then the Chandala asks Shankaracharya, whom are you asking to move? Are you asking this body? If you're asking this body to move, then this body is made the same as your body, Panchabhutatmakam. Or are you asking the Atma to move? If you're asking the Atma to move, the Atma inside me and the Atma inside you is all one and the same. It is Sarvavyapi. Where are you asking the Atma to move? And right then and there, Shankaracharya realizes that what foolishness was I doing? And he prostrates in front of that Chandala and says, you are my Guru. And he composes a beautiful verse right then and there addressed to that Chandala. So, having said that, yes, Varnas existed, but there was a purpose behind it. But Varna was not discriminatory. That was a development that was ultimately percolated by the innate human inefficiencies and shortcomings that we have. Because we want to show that I am superior. And it is not only at that point in time, even to this day, we see this happening. You take any sector. I'll give a live example within software industries itself. There is Varna system within software. The best of the software engineers FANG companies. Oh, where do you work? I work for Meta, Apple, Google. Oh my goodness, they are like the best of the best. They are so elite. We have like a system where anyone who is involved in software services company who is doing tech support, he is considered as the lowliest of the lowly. I'm a software developer. Anyone who is a tester, oh, they are just QA folks. Point is, as human beings, we have it within ourselves to establish that I am better than everybody else. And when that becomes sectarian, when that becomes so widely percolated and formalized within a social structure, then exploitation starts. Exploitation is not there anywhere in nature. It is not in the scheme of God's design at all. And that is why again and again we see instances where all of this is turned off. Where in Nandana's case, Shiva told the Brahmanas, you guys should carry him in a palaki and bring him in front of me. Go do it. There are instances, far and few, yes, but again and again it is shown that it is not this, it is not this, it is not this, but it is so hard to overcome this humanistic tendency we have to show that I am better than everybody else. And that is what again and again manifests in these kind of exploitative behaviors that we see, whether it is based on varna or color or race, in all across, it's a fundamental human nature, unfortunately. And the way to overcome that is to understand the oneness within all of us. If we can understand that oneness, and that is why we see really well realized souls, they don't care about any of these things. Which is why Rama was so dear to Guha. Rama embraced the Vanaras. He embraced Shabari. Krishna was absolutely mesmerized with all the Vrindavan Vasis. Truly realized souls, they don't care about any of these things. It's the mundane human tendency that allows us to exploit. And we figure out ways of doing it. I hope, that clarifies, Uncle.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Shivaji, do you have anything to add?
Not at this time. We'll probably do it next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I do have some questions that probably take another 15-20 minutes of conversation.
Yeah. We can, we'll do that in the next session for sure.
Yeah.
That itself, yes.
Right. Yeah. And also, a preview of it. You probably, a lot of people, there must be so many scriptures about this and discussions about this. Why is Shiva Abhisheka Priya? Why does he need to be always in water? Why does he need to be always in water? Shivalinga, right? Every
Yes.
time we see that,
Yeah.
it feels nice to kind of do Abhisheka. Every god has Abhisheka, but especially for Shiva, it's always like, having that in water, something, right? So we will talk about it too.
Yes, for sure. Definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Praveen Garu. Thanks a lot.